An unforeseen encounter with a stepfather altered the course of everything, a tale of betrayal. My name is Zaza, and at 30 years old, I feel compelled to unveil a chapter of my life that I've long kept shrouded in silence, a tale woven with threads of pain and the struggle for acceptance. Life has a way of surprising us with events we never imagined would touch our lives, yet they arrive and transform everything. All that I could never have envisioned. That I would have to dwell in anguish, burdened by a truth that continues to elude my acceptance. My tale is not one of romance or familial joy. As many ponder, it's not just about sacrifices and concealed feelings. Love is often deemed the sole reason as well. In the realm of unions, many embark on the journey of marriage, yet for my mother and stepfather, I sensed a different tale unfolding from the very moment he stepped into our lives. A sense of unease washed over me, and slowly, I came to understand that my mother was merely a pretext. It was I who held the key to his heart, the true catalyst behind his vows to her. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, so I can keep sharing more captivating true tales like this one. Be sure to stay tuned and watch this video all the way through to the very end. This tale promises to be utterly captivating. My mother moved gracefully through a quaint, vintage boutique. In the wake of my father's passing during my youth, she became my guiding light, nurturing and caring for me with unwavering devotion. As I grew into adulthood, I came to appreciate her unwavering resilience and determination. She not only nurtured our lives but also turned her fashion store into a cherished hub within our community. In my eyes, my mother has always stood as a beacon of strength and independence. Life unfolded with a gentle rhythm, flowing steadily and peacefully. My mother persevered tirelessly at the boutique. As I immersed myself in my studies, time flowed onward, guiding me into a pivotal chapter of my life as I embarked on my university journey. It was a momentous occasion. The first time I sensed the thrill of liberation from my mother's watchful care, as I ventured into the vast expanse of the world. The early days of university unfolded like a tapestry of new experiences, each thread vibrant and full of promise. Then, on an ordinary day that would become extraordinary, I encountered Mr. Stan. A figure who would play dual roles in my life, not just my teacher, but also my stepfather. Mr. Stan was a philosophy lecturer, and from the very first day of class, I was completely enthralled. Through his unique approach, he guided me to a richer comprehension of the subject, transforming my perspective on life after class. As our conversations grew more frequent, I came to understand the profound impact he had on my life. Yet, as time passed, I started to sense an unusual intensity in the way he regarded me. Initially, I believed it was merely a figment of my imagination, yet as time unfolded, this sensation grew more distinct. In those fleeting instances when I shared my thoughts, his eyes met mine with a profound intensity, transcending the typical teacher-student dynamic. It was as if unspoken words lingered in the air, wrapped in a silence that held untold stories and concealed truths. Each time that gaze fell upon me, an unsettling sensation crept in, leaving me to ponder the depths of what remained unexpressed. In that moment, a cloud of uncertainty enveloped me. It was not the gaze I was accustomed to, but one that felt as though it were scrutinizing me, as if anticipating something. An enigma that eluded my grasp. I found myself pondering whether my imagination was running wild, yet the undeniable strangeness lingered in the air. As time flowed on, it wasn't just Mr. Stan's eyes that began to change, but I too felt a transformation within me. To observe peculiar behaviors from him. Each time our paths crossed, he would inch closer, often resting his hand on my shoulder in a manner that sent a shiver down my spine. At first glance, those gestures appeared innocent. Yet they grew burdensome, leaving me uneasy when he held me back after class to delve into the lecture. Yet, this exchange unfolded differently from those before, as he ventured beyond mere words about the he appeared to. I wished to extend our gathering, for that lingering gaze and closeness enveloped me in a sense of suffocation. The respect and distance that once defined the relationship between teachers and students had faded away, leaving a void that was palpable. Slowly, I found myself hesitating to visit him as often as I once did. I crafted reasons to sidestep those intimate talks after school when he extended his hand to assist. I could only decline. Citing my busyness, yet deep within, I yearned to keep my distance. I made an attempt to position himself at a distance in class, minimizing eye contact, and on occasion, Evan would arrive at school later than usual. In an effort to steer clear of him before class, I convinced myself that if I just kept my distance from Mr. Stan, all would be well. If only I could escape those peculiar gazes and behaviors. Perhaps I could cast aside the anxiety that swelled within me throughout the school year I sought to evade. Upon encountering him once more, a sense of normalcy washed over me as I maintained my distance, leading me to believe that all the turmoil had finally come to an end. Yet, I was unprepared for the revelation that the sanctuary I had built for myself was merely a fleeting illusion. Upon my return home after a year of school, I observed a remarkable change in my mother. Her spirit seemed brighter, her cheerfulness radiating more than ever before. Her eyes shimmered with delight as she shared her words, and at times, a joyful laugh would escape her lips. Softly to herself, as though concealing a cherished joy. I started to ponder, yet my mother simply expressed her joy, stating that life was improving at that moment. One afternoon, as my mother and I were nestled in the living room, she unexpectedly took a seat beside me. Beside me, her face glowed, and her eyes sparkled with uncontainable happiness. She started to weave a tale of significance. She had encountered a remarkable individual, someone she was eager to present to me, her joy radiating brightly, clear in each of her movements. For countless years my heart was buoyant as my mother, a solitary figure, poured her life into raising me. She set aside her own joys, dedicating every ounce of her energy to my well-being. On that day, I felt a profound relief, witnessing her finally embrace the joy and happiness that had long been her due. As my mother readied herself to unveil that meant to me, a sense of eager anticipation filled my heart. The house stood in perfect order, with the dining table meticulously prepared by my mother's loving hands. I could see the sparkle of excitement and joy dancing in her eyes, and I held on to the hope that this man would be the one to bring her the comfort and happiness she so deserved. After all her searching, the doorbell rang, breaking the silence of her quest. My heart fluttered as my mom swiftly approached the door. I remained in the living room, lost in thoughts of the man who had recently entered her life. When the door finally opened, I was met with the sight of Mr. Stan stepping inside. My heart swelled with a profound and unexplainable astonishment. I stood frozen, disbelief washing over me as I beheld him. All the unease I had felt about him surged back, enveloping me like a thick fog. My mother cherished the man she had introduced, Mita, with a trust and joy that felt so genuine. Yet he was the very man I had been attempting to steer clear of all this time. A cacophony of clashing thoughts erupted within me. What is it about him? When did their paths first cross? Did he harbor any intentions? A wave of uneasiness surged within me, as vivid memories of his peculiar glances and disconcerting gestures rushed back, clouding my thoughts and leaving me in a haze of confusion. I gazed at my mother, hoping to catch a glimpse of understanding in her eyes, a hint that she sensed the oddity of the moment. Yet she remained entirely unaware. She wore a smile, joyfully presenting Ethan, as though all was well within my heart. This was merely an introduction to a man she adored, oblivious to the tempest that Ethan's presence was igniting within my heart. Mr. Ethan strolled in, a warm smile gracing his face, exuding an air of friendliness and politeness. He welcomed me with a feigned surprise, exclaiming that he never anticipated I would be the daughter of my mother. I attempted to feign surprise as well, yet within me a storm raged. My mother, blissfully unaware of the turmoil swirling within me, laughed joyfully, her delight evident in every moment. As Ethan and my other companion engaged in cheerful conversation about the surprising twist of fate, I found myself standing there, a wave of insecurity washing over me. Questions swirled in my mind about the true nature of Mr. Ethan, and the unexpected role he played in my mother's life, one that was so different from the man I thought I knew. Was this truly a twist of fate, or was there an unseen thread weaving through the fabric of my reality? From that day forth, life continued its familiar rhythm. There were no peculiar omens from Ethan, nor anything that stirred concern in Mom. Instead, he drew nearer and nearer, and their emotions blossomed in a way that felt entirely organic. In that moment, I witnessed my mother radiating joy like never before. Her smile was a frequent visitor, and each day she glowed with a brilliance that captivated all around her. Not long after, my mother chose to remarry, and Ethan stepped into the role of my stepfather. Life unfolded seamlessly, with nothing out of the ordinary to disrupt our family's tranquil existence. As time flowed on, the peace and stability remained, and I found myself questioning whether I was overthinking things. In the beginning, I found myself weighed down by worries. A reflection of the stress that came with witnessing the shifts in my mother's life and my own. Yet, as I observed her happiness blossoming day by day, especially in the company of Ethan, I slowly began to release my doubts and insecurities, allowing the warmth of her bright smile to fill my heart. It dawned on me that the true essence lay in her discovery of the happiness that was rightfully hers. At last, I embraced their bond and offered them my heartfelt blessing. I wished for my mother to remain enveloped in that joy, and as time flowed on, I gradually embraced Ethan as a member of our family. I observed nothing out of the ordinary in Ethanus. As time passed, a sense of unease crept in, and I found myself casting blame upon my own thoughts, questioning why I allowed baseless fears to take hold. Meanwhile, I observed my mother's joy blossoming alongside Ethan, a sight that stirred a mix of emotions within me. Relief washed over me. At last, a wave of happiness washed over me, as I thought of my mother. I genuinely wished her well, envisioning a life for her brimming with joy and delight. In that moment, I believed that all would simply carry on as it was, in a tranquil manner. It had been quite a while since any peculiar signs had emerged from Ethan, and I slowly found our sense of comfort, no longer burdened by worries or doubts about our stepfather. He had consistently shown himself to be a good person, devoted to my mother and our family. At the age of 22, I was convinced that my earlier worries stemmed solely from my own sensitivity and vivid imagination. Upon completing my university journey, I embarked on the quest for my first job. Even though the perfect job had eluded me, I chose to lend a hand to my mother at her boutique. Our moments together grew, and Ethan frequently dropped by the store, lending a hand with little tasks whenever he found a spare moment. All was calm, and my uncertainties regarding Ethan had vanished. I genuinely thought he was a devoted husband to my mother, and had woven himself into the fabric of my life. Yet, on what would become the darkest day of my existence, everything transformed. On that particular day, I found myself unwell. The fever weighed heavily on my body, sapping my energy, and I found myself unable to accompany my mother to the store as I typically would. With a gentle voice, she urged me to remain at home. I found myself undressed, and it barely registered in my mind. On that day, it was just Ethan, my stepfather, who remained at home with me. Initially, I felt no worry or suspicion, as he had no plans to go out. After all those years of sharing our lives, I truly believed he was a good and trustworthy man, one who loved my mother deeply. In the quiet of my room, I found myself seeking solace in the embrace of sleep, hoping to escape the relentless grip of pain and fatigue brought on by the fever. Yet that tranquility was fleeting. What I never anticipated unfolded before me, and there it was. Each day within the walls of what I once deemed my sanctuary, Ethan entered the room, a glass of water in one hand and a few pills in the other. He claimed they were painkillers, easing my fever more swiftly. His voice flowed softly, wrapping around each word with warmth and compassion. Nothing that stirred doubt. The fever swirled in my mind, a dizzying dance, and I paid it little heed. All I longed for was to heal and find some rest. With a decisive motion, I grasped the pills from his hand and swallowed them down, my resolve unwavering. As I took a sip of the water, little did I know that this was merely the prologue to the calamity that was about to unravel before me. All appeared to be as it should, and I failed to detect anything unusual after I had finished my drink. There was nothing out of the ordinary that stirred within me. The medicine appeared to linger in its effects, leaving me acutely aware of my surroundings, as if time itself had paused for a moment. I lay there in silence, contemplating the notion that the fever would soon fade away. Yet, as the clock ticked past the 20-minute mark, a shift began to unfold. Ethan stepped back into the room, this time empty-handed, devoid of medicine or water. In his gaze, there lingered a shadow of concern that unsettled me. Yet, as I attempted to rise, a wave of disbelief washed over me, my body lay still, unresponsive to my will. A sensation of immobility enveloped me, as though every ounce of my energy